Hello.
Hi. How's it
Hi.
going?
Air Fantastics.
Wonderful. My name is Frank, and that's not my name. My name's Ryan. Hey, welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday, the show where we talk about all the stuff that's on your mind, all the worries, all the problems, all the situations, and even just the random questions. Um, and yeah, that's what we do in this show. And our goal is to help encourage you and guide you along your way, help you feel like you have a friend, because you do, and also to share our experiences in those areas. A lot of times in life, you know, kind of what you got to do to solve your problems,
Mm-hmm.
because you guys are smart. You
Mm-hmm.
guys are smart, but it's still nice to have an extra perspective, a little bit of encouragement. It can go a long way, and so that's what we're here to do. We aren't professional psychologists, psychiatrists, or anything along those lines, but we will give you our best. Um, so yeah, if you want to have us do your topic, please go to don'tworrywednesday.com. There is no apostrophe before the T in don't. Just to let you know, you can click on that link. If you put an apostrophe, the Google will try to handle you. I think probably. I don't know, but it won't work. That's all I got to say. Um, anyways, yeah, don'tworrywednesday.com. There you can just go and click on the submit a topic button, and you'll be on your way. But yeah, we're so happy to have you here. We're so happy to be here. This is my favorite part of the week, and I think that speaks true for the rest of us here as well. At least I know it's true for Joe. Okay, Princess nods yes as well. So
Mm-hmm.
cool, awesome. Well, this is our favorite part of the week. It's with you guys, and we're so
Yes.
happy. So, yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome. How are you guys doing today? How are you doing, Joe?
Fantastics. How are you?
Fantastics. Are you Swedish? Are you the
I
Swedish
don't know.
guy?
I don't know what that
Are
is.
you?
You said that
Are
actually one time, a
I
long
said
time
that?
ago. You
Yeah,
did. You said
exactly. Mm-hmm.
fantastics, and I was
Yeah,
like,
that
"That's
was me.
multiple fantastics."
This, I guess so. I guess so.
I
How are
just
you, Princess?
realized.
Doing what?
Sorry.
Joe,
What?
Joe,
Sorry.
I'm the
Go ahead.
host. Yeah. What? Come on,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
And when I say talk, talk.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I love you, man. You're doing great. You're doing
I
great.
love you too. Oh, thanks.
Princess, how are you doing?
Fantastics. Is that how you say?
Ah. That works. Joe, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
I don't
You
remember.
realized. You realized.
Oh, I realized because I wrote in the chat, I wrote "Hoy" with a question or the exclamation point. I noticed the I is like an upside down exclamation point,
Oh, you're right.
and
It
I was
is.
like, "Huh, that's really cool and weird."
So so upside down it says eh. Oh.
Yes, exactly.
Uh-huh. If you
Yep, there you
rotate
go,
it
Ash.
180.
Exactly.
Eh. Oh. Uh-huh.
They like
Uh-huh.
they like complement each other well, right? Like,
Yeah, that looks like a brick house.
oh,
That's cool.
Saule, that's wow,
Yeah. That's magnificent. What you have just done with the
magnificent.
characters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's like art. Rio, hey, how's it going? Hey guys, how you doing? It's nice to see you all. Moonlit, Ash, Saole. Sister, cool, nice to have you here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yansai and Ash. Fantastic. Anne? Awesome. Sweet, sweet. Cool. Lots of
Yeah.
people. And I'm sure there will be more, and I'm sure there's also lurkers. So thank you for lurking. Thank you everybody who is joining us on the show after the stream and just checks out our videos. We really appreciate you guys as well. I just wanted to say that. And yeah. So let's get this show started. What do you guys say?
Yes. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's do it. Okay, so first on our list, we've got an anonymous, and it is titled Online Sexual Harassment.
Mm.
Yeah, so this one's going to be a bit of a, well, I mean, honestly, I've dealt with a little bit of this myself. So hopefully, I mean, this is a tender area. Hopefully we can do it justice, anonymous, and hopefully help you out in this, because yeah, that can be a bit of a, yeah, it's not a good environment, not a good environment. So anyhow, without any further ado, I'm going to give it over to Princess so she can do the honors of reading it.
Mm-hmm.
How do I deal with online harassment? A close friend of mine had a Discord server for his YouTube channel, and I joined it. Everything was going fine. Then he gave me the role of being his sister since we are very close. They didn't know that I was a female before, and ever since then, every day, at least one person has made some sort of sexual remark towards me or harassed me in a different way. And the other day, someone went too far and was calling me inappropriate names as well as calling me fat. This person has no idea what I look like, and they wouldn't know that. I've struggled with my weight and thinking that I was too fat or too skinny. But it still hurt and messed with me a lot. Then a few other people joined in, and they were calling me racial slurs. Most of the time, my friend doesn't do anything to try and stop it. Every once in a while, he'll tell them to knock it off or something, but he doesn't really enforce it. I don't really want to leave the server since there's some nice people, but I also don't feel fully comfortable. What should I do? And what should I say to them when they start to harass me? Usually I just try to ignore it, but it doesn't really help anymore. Thank you for all that you do. From Anonymous.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of things here. I mean, it's not just sexual harassment, but just general harassment as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. Like, obviously, no one should have to deal with that in this world. But you know, it's unfortunate. I mean, I can actually relate to having close friends and then getting kind of bullied and not being stood up for.
Mm.
I remember actually in my very young youth, one of the it wasn't necessarily traumatizing, but it really stuck in my mind for a really long time. It was hard for me to get over. Was that my brother and his friends were kind of saying mean things to me, and I wasn't handling it very well. And my brother just sat there and let it happen. And I remember feeling so betrayed because it's like, Kyle, you have all of the power to stop this. I don't, and you aren't doing anything. And all you're doing is you're letting it. You're kind of almost joining in with it because you're just not doing anything. And I remember going through that, and that was a really rough time for me. I eventually got it worked out with my brother, and we talked about it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I mean, right off the bat, I just want to say I relate to that part especially as as well. And I would suggest having a good talk with your friend um, right off the bat. But anyhow, I'm going to give it over to Joe. I'm sure he's got a lot of things to say, and they're going to be real good. So there you go.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see how we do here. I too have struggled with harassment. Not a whole lot of sexual harassment. Definitely being bullied. Definitely being harassed. In fact, most of my most of my life from like all through middle school and early high school, I spent being bullied a lot, and it wasn't any fun. It's always hard when people are just picking on you. I was a little bit small, and I got good grades, and I tried hard at stuff, and so I was an easy target. I wasn't super athletic. I wasn't a black belt yet, and so I was an easy target for bullies, and they definitely took advantage of that. Um, so you do end up feeling very helpless, like Ryan was talking about when he was being bullied and his brother kind of stood there and didn't do anything about it. That can feel really, really helpless, and I'm sure online it can feel helpless as well. And another thing to think about with online harassment is, that I think we say things to people in text that we would not even dream of saying to someone face to face. I've experienced that before. It's definitely crazy, and I try and think about that when I'm messaging anyone, like would I say this to them in person? Would I say this to this person? Like if I'm sitting in the room with them, looking them in the face, would I say this that I'm going to say? And it can be a guide for us to determine what we say to somebody. And it helps us to be genuine that way, right? Because I don't know, I've just kind of noticed that, when we're not face to face, when we're not, even if we're just talking on the phone, when it's just words going across a screen, we take a lot more liberties with things that we say. And the other part that makes that hard is, when we're sending messages through text, we can easily misunderstand the tone of what's being said. We can misunderstand, the feelings behind it. We don't have the body language or the voice inflections or anything to go along with it. We just have the words on the screen. And so it's really easy for stuff to be misinterpreted. Now, I'm not saying that this person is not harassing you, Anonymous. I'm not saying that this is you misinterpreting what they're saying. But I'm just saying that, we do that. We tend to, it's easy to misinterpret things that are said in text form. But and it's also easy to take those liberties. As far as sexual harassment goes, I had one fairly interesting, well, actually a lot of, they all seem to happen at this one place. There was a handful of experiences I had because I worked out at this gym for a while, and it was unisex. There were 2 of these facilities in the town, and they would switch because they only had one locker room. So it was all male on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and all female Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Sunday they were closed. And so, you would just have to you'd have to pick which one you went to depending on which day it was, right? So, but because of that, it was a haven for gay or lesbian or, a lot of stuff like that. And it was the LGBTQ movement was not in the same full swing as it is today. So things were a little bit more underground, taboo thing. It was a little bit different time. But it was a place for gay men to feel a lot more open. And so I got hit on a lot by men during this time period in my life. That's kind of weird. You kind of feel like a piece of meat. You're walking around the locker room and you see people looking at you. And you're like, oh, interesting. It makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, right? And there were times when, people would wait for me in the parking lot and they'd want me to take them back. And there were weird things that were like code. Like if you acted a certain way, it was code for this community. And I had no idea, but luckily I worked with a gay man at my workplace at the music store. And I told him about this experience. He's like, oh yeah, he thought you were hitting on him. He thought you were trying to pick him up and take him home and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, how am I supposed to know this stuff? Like, I don't know what's going on. All I know is this guy was like watching me, and then he was following me, and then he didn't really say anything to me, but then he followed me out to my car, and I'm like, this is weird, and I get in my car and I drive off, and then it was just, yeah, it was really, really strange. But anyway, so I don't know. Those are just some stories of my own experiences in dealing with some of this. I have not dealt with harassment on Discord ever. I've not dealt with harassment on any online chats or anything like that. I've not dealt with that. So Ryan's going to be a way better resource for some of that. But I can tell you that one of the best things you can do is let your friend know about it. The person who has the Discord server. Let them know, talk to them about it, and maybe you can get a little guidance. Maybe you can get a little bit of like what's appropriate. How should I handle this with this person on your server? What's a good way for me to do this? Because this is happening and it's making me uncomfortable, and I don't like it, and I want to stay on this server, but I don't feel comfortable. So what can we do to make this situation better? And so if you talk to that your friend that owns the server, I think you'd be able to get pointed in the right direction at least with how to handle it. And don't be afraid to be firm with this person and say, please stop. You can just be straight up front and say, please stop this. These kinds of things that you're saying, please stop. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. Please stop. You can just be upfront and real and genuine and firm with them rather than trying to beat around the bush or laugh it off or stuff like that. Sometimes we just need to be firm and say, please stop that. You don't have to do it in an angry, disrespectful way, but firm. And it's amazing. A lot of times when we're firm, but not overly emotional, not overly like angry, not overly going off the deep end with stuff, the response, like a lot of times people will straighten up. Now, there are cases where they won't. And, who knows what happens? I mean, you might just have to report that to the owner of the server. Maybe they need to be removed or have a timeout or something. I don't know. But yeah, any kind of harassment is definitely inappropriate. And I'm sorry, Anonymous, that you're dealing with that. So, but with all that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan. As I said, he probably is a much greater resource when it comes to dealing with this in an online environment than I am, because I really haven't dealt with it there. I've only dealt with it IRL, I guess. So, Ryan, it's all yours.
Okay, well, I'll give it my best. Like I said, I've dealt with some of this before, and I was bullied. I was bullied in elementary all the way through high school until the end. Until the last 2 years of high school, I wasn't bullied anymore then, really. But yeah, it was not good. So I empathize rather. And here's probably the best thing that I can do for you. In my personal experience, when people are acting out of line on the internet, on chat sites or Discord or whatever, right? And by the way, some of the chat, if you haven't read them, I'm sure you have, but they've got some good comments. So they said some good things and so on. So I encourage you to read those. But here's my experience with these things and how they went. When I think I was about 20 before I tried this for the first time, and it worked exceptionally well. People were being jerks, right, in chats, and so what I did is I took the initiative and did some private messaging. Basically, I removed myself from the chat. Why? Or I removed our conversation with this person, my conversation with them, away from the rest of the chat. Because what happens is you get this thing called mob mentality, and it happens even in really small circles. Usually mob mentality refers to situations where you have mobs, like large groups of people who feel entirely justified to do terrible things because there's so many other people around them doing it. It sort of just takes over their ability to think correctly. But this can happen in forms in small social circles as well. So if one person starts making fun of someone and then another person joins, suddenly it makes room for everyone to kind of feel like they want to be on that train. Like, hey, everyone's having a good time. Obviously, they're not. But that sort of thing happens. So what I figured out I could do was I would send a private message to them, or a direct message, however you want to call it. And I would just talk to one person, right? And I would say just something like Joe said, maybe a little pointed, but not angry. I would confront them, but not aggressively. I would talk to them as if on their side, though. Here's the thing. Talk to them as if I'm on their side. So you private message them and you say, hey, hey, what's going on? Like, I mean, I don't really appreciate those things that you're saying, and I don't really think that you're that kind of person. I didn't really, what, is everything all right? Like, what's going on? You're not usually that mean. And what happens is because you made that contact with them on a personal level, and you said things to them that called to mind, like that they're not really that bad of a person, but they're being bad right now. Are going to, most of the time, what usually happens is they start to feel, uh, they start to kind of reawaken their senses of their conscience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've now engaged them in a personal level. It reawakens their conscience to help them realize, oh my gosh, this is a person I'm talking to. And what happens usually after that is they'll just be silent in the chat. They might not stick up. They might stick up for you, but they'll be silent in the chat.
Mm.
And then, you know what you do? You go to the next one and you say it to them too. You talk to them personally. And it might carry on in a conversation. You might have like a 15-minute conversation with them on the side. And then you can completely ignore the other conversation that's going on and people being jerks. But from my personal experience, that really works well. You can do that for people who are bullying other people, or you can even do that for people who are bullying you, to make that reconnection. Because Joe was just talking about, people generally, there are things people say online that they wouldn't say in real life if they saw you in their face to face. But there are people who would say that to you face to face. But it's usually only in either A, a social setting, or B, when they have removed their conscience from the scenario, right? Which people do. People do that. They forget like they're actually talking to a human being. So if you engage them on a personal level, it reawakens their senses and makes them come to it and go, oh yeah, this is a human being. And that helps a lot. So that's my main suggestion. Other than that suggestion, I along with a lot of other people in the chat would and Joe highly recommend spending some time talking to the owner of the
Mm-hmm.
thing, seeing what rules are established, and just kind of talking that over with them, and letting them know that you're being, not kind of, but you are being harassed by these people. Um, yeah, I'll spare you the sexual harassments that I've dealt with in the past, because it's not really entirely relevant, and I can't really pull much out of it other than to say, if people are doing that to you, um, it's a good time to call it. If you talk to them and they don't stop, it's a good time to call it. And what I mean by that is just at some point you got to just either A, block them, because you can do that. You can right click on Discord, you can right click on people, go to their profile, and you can push block. And I've never had to do that, luckily, but I've seen other people have to do that. And so at some point you might just have to call it. And that might be having them removed from the server and on a temporary ban, just to say, hey, like, that's not cool. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. You can come back in a week. Period. Don't do that kind of crap, and you can talk to the owner about that kind of stuff and how you want to handle that. But yeah, if people are sexually harassing you, yeah, sometimes, I mean, a lot of times, if you can't get through to them, and most likely they're not going to stop
Mm-hmm.
unless they have a punishment. Because people who do sexual harassment, their mind is in a place where that's on their mind constantly, right? People who sexually harass people tend to have a very strong emphasis in their mind on sex,
Mm-hmm.
and they're thinking about it a lot. And so to just give them to tell them, hey, stop that, might work for like a couple of minutes, but it's going to be back in their head and they don't stop thinking about it. They need some serious ramifications to really start to adjust their mind in the way that they're thinking about people, and to not try to use them as objects of sex. So, not easy, and it's not a good thing to hear, but just know that that tends to be the case. So that means with people who have done that, you might have to take it to the next level, or even to the ultimate level of just like, yeah, you're banned, you're not allowed anymore. Um, and that's honestly to help them, because yeah, they need to learn now. I mean, geez, that's not a good life to live. Trust me.
Hmm.
I've met a lot of people. I've had one-on-one conversations with them, and like in public, they'll be like, sex is great, blah blah blah, all this, and they'll be like, I'm gonna go get myself like a girl at the bar later tonight, all this kind of stuff. And then you get on one-on-one with them, and you talk to them about it seriously, and they're like, yeah, I wish I wasn't addicted to this. I wish
Hmm.
I never got involved in the first place. Because it robs me of so much, and it's always on my mind, and it sucks.
Hmm.
So those people need help. Those people need help, and sometimes you kind of gotta kick them in the butt, slap them in the face a couple times, before they
Yes.
start to want enough to change.
Yes. Kick the butt, slap the face, not the other way around.
Don't kick the face and slap the butt. Good call, Joe. Good call. So, yeah.
The other thing
That.
is if they aren't
Go
willing
ahead.
to enforce it as a server, um,
Mhm.
then it is appropriate to leave. Because again, if they aren't going to do what it takes for there to be appropriate things happening, because, harassment isn't allowed on Discord. I believe it's in their TOS, but,
Yes, it is.
you know, so you can report them also through Discord itself. I'm sure there's either in their profiles, there's a report button, or through the Discord forums, which I can always try to figure out something and put in the comments or something for the anonymous person. But um, you can also report them because they might get another account or whatever. But it's again one of those moments where you are inflicting a, hey, this isn't appropriate, enough so that you have to get a new account.
Mm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's to prove a point and to get them to understand, even if you don't have the power to do a lot of things. You have the power to reach out. So that's all I wanted to say.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've got everything that I wanted to say covered. Which is great. Joe, did you have anything you want to add?
Um, you know, I think probably anonymous. I just wanted to reaffirm that you are more than just a thing. Because when you deal with this, when you deal with some kind of harassment, it could be sexual harassment. It seems like sexual harassment kind of goes to a higher level in this regard of objectifying a person, but really any kind of harassment does this to some degree. Bullying does this to some degree. You just feel like a thing. You don't feel like, it kind of robs you of some dignity
Mhm.
to go through this. And I just want to reaffirm you, Anonymous, that you are valuable. You are more than just an object. You are a person. And you are beautiful, just as you are. And this doesn't change that at all, even though deep down it might feel like it does. It might feel like, when you're being treated like this, when you're being treated poorly by someone, when you're being used in their life or in their mind as a thing for their mental gratification or any kind of thing, right? Like whatever it is. I've been used a lot in my life. And it robs you of dignity. It robs you of value. It makes you feel like, it takes you down a few notches. It really does. And so, Anonymous, I just want to reaffirm you that you are a person. You are wonderful. You are amazing. And this doesn't change that one bit. Not one bit. So I just wanted to let you know that, because deep down inside, I know when we go through that, those thoughts come to mind. It reminds me of just being robbed of your dignity, and that's a really hard thing to deal with. So just want to encourage you, Anonymous. You can take these steps that Ryan and Princess have talked about, and that is a good step in reclaiming a little bit of that dignity, that you can assert yourself. and say, you know what, this is inappropriate. This is wrong. This is not just for your own sake, but for their sake, for the harassers' sake, because they're behaving wrong. I remember a priest telling me years ago, and we were talking about a situation going on, and he's like, well, bad behavior doesn't get fixed by rewarding it or by saying or by neglecting to say that it's bad behavior. You know, bad behavior gets fixed by pointing out that it's bad behavior and addressing it as bad behavior. And so that person can then recognize, oh, this is inappropriate. This is wrong. You know, and we don't have to turn the table on them. And I mean, well, some people, maybe they need to experience that to see how wrong it is. But I hope it doesn't. I hope they don't have to get to that point to understand that what they're doing is wrong. But really, you know, those steps that have been spelled out and what you can do to, you know, address them, address the owner of the server and Discord as a whole. You know, maybe that can teach them, oh, this behavior is wrong, it's not acceptable, and I need to stop it. And, but that's, I mean, if you just sweep it under the rug, it's not ever going to get handled, and they're not going to get better, and, you know, it won't change. And once, if they stop doing it with you, they may move on to another person and start draining the life out of them. Like Moira in Overwatch. For those of you who play. Sorry. But anyway, that's pretty much all I had. So
Awesome. I just want to say one last quick thing. Anonymous Anne said, but it's also important not to shackle yourself to toxic places. And that's absolutely true, right? Just because there's something good that you like doesn't mean that it's worth the slavery of wanting that good. You see, if you allow yourself to be in a toxic place because you want to reap the good that's there at the place, but you're willing to experience the toxicity of it, what you've done is you've kind of put your mind in a place that says, I value this good over my own well-being. And that is, I mean, akin to any kind of addiction, right? We want to go away from those types of things. If you allow yourself to be convinced that you need to stay at a place that's toxic and throw away your freedom because you find some good there, then that good better be actually worth it in the grand scheme of all things. Or you're unfortunately only damaging yourself. And, well, technically, like Joe just said, you're damaging the people that are wronging you as well, because you're allowing them to do that. Because you're attached to that good. It's better to let go of that good and be healthy than to attach yourself to that good and subject yourself to unhealthy things. So just wanted to run that through, say that real quick. As an option, it's all right to say, you know what? I'm my own person. I'm awesome. And I don't need that. And you know what? There's plenty of other opportunities out there, and I can still talk to these people. I've got their personal, Discord. So, you know what? Whatever. I'm gone. See ya. And just move on. Because the thing is, wherever you go, life moves on with you. And you can make it great. You don't have to run these stupid courses just to be happy. You don't have to run through, the toxic slime just because it's there. And you heard that there was something good, or you felt something good there. You're free to find happiness in all other locations. So don't get held up.
And just
Mhm.
because the person might be as close as family to you doesn't mean that you're required to stay there to support them. You are able to support them even if you're not in that community.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for this topic, Anonymous. I hope we did it justice. Um, and thank you, Joe and Princess, for your great um, comments on it as well. So,
Mm.
thank you,
You're welcome.
Anonymous. We love you. We wish you the very best, and we hope that you can get this all sorted out, so you don't have to deal with the bad stuff anymore, and you won't have to be harassed, one way or another. And so I put all the options I could think of on the table and let you know that uh, that we love you. So thanks for always coming to our show. You're amazing. Okay, fantastic. So we have
Fantastics.
another topic. Fantastic. We've got another topic from another anonymous
Mhm.
um that we can do. Hey Parker, hey man, long time no see. Hope you're doing awesome. Um
Yeah. Welcome.
yeah, welcome. Um so yeah, another anonymous one. This is titled Sharing My Chosen Path. And whenever you guys are ready, feel free to read it.
All right. It's all yours, princess.
I've recently discovered myself, and as a result, what I would like to pursue. However, having been so lost these past few years and worried about how other people perceive me, I- I've told I've told different people different things about me. For example, I have told some people some interests of mine that I'm not actually interested in because I was lost at that time, or the interests that I have since lost interest in. I worry that these people will see me and continue to see me as the person who likes blank, when I don't want them to think of me that way. I want it to be obvious when I choose what I want to do. I want people to think of me as the person who likes or is knowledgeable in insert path I have chosen. That isn't to say that I don't want people to know I like other things, but I guess that's why this is so complicated. I have and always had a deep passion for the thing that I'm wanting to pursue. But how do I make other people see that? From Anonymous.
Mm.
Awesome. This is a great topic. This is a unique one. I'm happy to hear this one. Not happy that you're suffering through it, but I'm happy that you share it with us. Because this is a rather unique one, and I think it touches on more than just this aspect, but it touches on different aspects of life that we go through beyond just. I think I guess more in the aspect of just how people see us and how do we navigate that. Um, but yeah, this is a really great topic, uh, and I'm looking forward to see what Joe's got to say on this. I'm sure he's gonna have a lot of great things to say. So I'm gonna give it over to him, um, and we get to experience that joyful experience of Joe experiencing our experiences with him. What? I don't know.
I'm not
Shut
sure
up, Ryan.
exactly
It's
what you
Joe's
just
turn.
said. I'm a
I don't know what I said either, but I
little.
think it was wrong. Whatever I said, don't quote it.
Well, all right. I couldn't if I tried, to be honest. I
Good.
would fumble over it almost as much as you did.
I fumbled over it when I said it, so that would be accurate to do so.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways,
Cool.
take it
I'm
away,
not
Joe.
even going to try. But anyway, Anonymous, thank you for the topic. Thank you for sharing this with you and or sharing this with us. And I'm really excited to hear that you found yourself, that you found a path for yourself. I think that's really, really great. And it's interesting because um, I've had moments of discovery like that as well. And it's really cool when things kind of line up in your head and you kind of get things figured out and you're like, "Oh yeah, this is great." But then, you know, as time goes on, maybe things adjust, or like we were talking about, you were lost at the time, and so or you didn't really have a lock on this, and so you may have given the impression to other people that you were into something else, whatever. But here's the thing: you asked at the end, you said, I have and always have had a deep passion for the thing that I'm wanting to pursue, but how do I make other people see that? Um, So I have a few things I could say to that, a few different ways I could answer that. And one is other people don't really need to see it. You are you. You are who you are. And that's awesome. And, you know, other people will take it however they take it. They'll see it however they see it. You know, I have learned that, other people are going to label me whatever they want to label me and, whatever. I have no control over that necessarily. I mean, I might be able to just live my life and they might come up with some kind of a label, but they're going to choose that for me. I'm not going to be able to tell them how I want them to label me. And so really it's like, okay, well, I'll just chuck the whole label system out the door anyway, because who needs labels around? But anyway, the way to get other people to see what you're passionate about is do it. Pursue it. Just don't even, I don't know. I hate to say don't care what people think, but in a way I'm saying that because I know I've spent a lot of my life caring about what other people think, and it doesn't really matter because people are going to think whatever they want. I remember reading a book one time, and I don't even remember which one it was, but I just remember this quote standing out to me, and I'm probably going to misquote it as well, but basically, it's like, it doesn't matter what other people think of me. That's none of my business. It's none of my business what other people think of me. That's all in their head. That's all in their thoughts. Who cares? Right? And so other people are going to think whatever they want. But you, Anonymous, who have found this path for yourself, this is a moment to celebrate. This is a moment to get yourself in order and go after it. This is a time to pursue it. And really what's going to happen is the people around you will see you pursuing it. And some people are going to think you're absolutely crazy. Whenever we're in passionate pursuit of something, a lot of people think we're crazy. It's true. Especially if it's something that other people don't really understand all that much, or something that maybe is a little bit off of the norm, or maybe not. Maybe they just don't quite see how it's going to work. I remember it was funny. I was a property inspector, for about 10 years. And I remember when I first started being a property inspector and I first got this, I started getting clients and I started, going and doing this work. And my mom got really, really concerned for me. She was like, I just don't know how you're going to turn that into some kind of a living. And I'm like, well, the numbers are there. Everything I've researched, everything I've seen, this is definitely a viable thing to do, a way to make a decent living for a lot of people. And, on and on and on. It's just going to take some time to build and built it. And what's funny is that thing that my mom was really concerned about me making a living or whatever. I had a decade's worth of career out of that. And it could have kept going, but I had a better opportunity come along. And so I took it. Now, I can tell you, as I've looked upon that industry, I'm glad I got out when I did. I wished I'd have gotten out earlier, but I mean, just because of the way the industry has changed, the way things have gotten more volatile, the way gas prices have gone through the roof, I mean, it's just nuts. Like my bottom line would have suffered tremendously just because of the gas prices. But the point that I was making with that story was that, my mom, brought up some concerns about me doing that. And what I did was I was just like, okay, I understand your concerns, but I've done a lot of research and I've learned a lot about this industry and I'm going to do it. And because it makes sense. And I made a good living for about 10 years. It was good, you know? So the thing is, whatever the path that you're on, all I can say is run after it. And people will see that this is what you're into. People will see that this is what you're all about. Now, however, I do also want to caution you a little bit, Anonymous. What you do does not define who you are. Okay? What you decide to do for a living, it doesn't define who you are. We get wrapped up into what we do, the things we do, our career path, we get wrapped up into all this stuff. It doesn't define who you are as a person. That's just one part of what you do. That's just part of your life experience. There are so many other things. I mean, that's just what you're doing at that point in time. There are foods you like, there are things you like to drink, there's the way you sleep. Do you sleep on your back? Do you sleep on your side? Do you sleep on your front? Whatever, right? Like, I mean, there's all kinds of different things that make up who you are. And even all those things inside you, the essence of you is greater than all that. So it's really, the reason I want to caution you on this is because it's great to find a path. It's great to find something we want to pursue, something we're passionate about, but in the end, it still doesn't define who we are. Because here's the thing. Sometimes those paths change. They do. Sometimes we find a new path and it seems like a better opportunity. And we're like, oh man, and this is a way that I can pursue my passion and go in this direction. And the passion I have hasn't changed, but the direction I'm going in has changed. But what it does is, like, now everybody thinks you changed direction, and so now we get back into the thing about what everybody else thinks. And so here's the thing. Understand that over the course of your life, you're going to experience a lot of things. You're going to experience a lot of different paths. You're going to experience a lot of different opportunities to go down a lot of different paths. And hey, whatever you decide, you can make it good and you can pursue it and you can throw yourself into it. And that's when it's the most fun. So that's a long way to answer your short, I could answer this in a really short way. And if I was Kyle, I would. Kyle is Ryan's brother, and he's very concise and very logical, and like he doesn't have to say much and gets the point across, right? I'm a little bit more wordy, and maybe for better or for worse, who knows? But you said I have always had a deep passion for the thing I'm wanting to pursue. How do I make other people see that? Just go. Just hit play. Just hit record, right? Just go.
Yeah.
Go. And do it. And people will fall in line with seeing you as you are. But I also want to remind you, there's more to you than just your pursuits. And we will spend our entire lives figuring all of that out. I'm learning stuff about me now. And I'm old. I've been 29 for many years. And I'm still learning all kinds of stuff about myself. So anyway, I've talked for a while. That's about what I have to at least start with. I don't know if I'm going to have anything on the other side, but I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and see what he has to say about this. So, Ryan, take it away.
Good luck, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck. No, I honestly, Joe, everything you're saying, I absolutely think it's great, and that's absolutely so true. Because we are definitely more than what we pursue. And I think that is a necessary and important statement for this world. We grow up I think the majority of us, we grow up in school, and in school, their focus as teachers is to train you to become a blah blah blah, and that's their
Mhm.
mindset, right? So they ask you at a very young age, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Um, and they say, all right, can you make money with that? All right. And it's like, why are you in school? Why do you work hard to get good grades, to get to go to college, to get more good grades, to get a good job, to get money so that you can survive. And that's all right, I guess. But it doesn't answer any of the better questions in life. Like, yeah, you might spend a lot of time working your profession, but I think we all need to spend time working more than just a profession, working, you know, our spiritual lives, working on our soul, working on who we are, working on our heart, and working on understanding what makes us happy, what makes us tick, and pursuing those things. Um, I'd rather meet someone who's poor on the streets but happy. I'd rather spend a lunch with someone with a stranger who's, you know, lived in the slums their whole life, but they're happy, than the top businessman who makes $1 million a week in a shop but hates what's going on. And I think that probably a lot of other people wouldn't say that. They would go for like, hey, you're getting the opportunity to meet a homeless man who's happy, or the opportunity to meet a businessman who's incredibly successful, but is unhappy. Who do you wanna hang out with?
Mm.
Um, Man, I'd hang out with the poor guy every time. That sounds like way more fun. Someone who's happier about themselves is going to be happier to be around, right? And that's really a true statement. I would highly, highly, highly recommend you, Anonymous, to read through the chat. Both Easy and Saule are dishing out like the sweetest truth. So enjoy the taste. Um and but yeah, like if if you wanna, I don't know, it can be, it's a toll to put on a facade to say that you're into things that you're not. I get that. I've been there, and it's like living a lie, and you're not necessarily happy there. But if you can just go on and pursue the things that are important to you, um and do what's right, you know rather than do what's wrong, right, you'll find yourself to be a lot happier of a person. And here's the thing: when you're a happy person, when you have some self-esteem to you, when you look at yourself and you're proud of who you are, right? And you can't do that if you're living a lie. If you look at yourself and you're proud of who you are, what generally happens is people just start liking you. They don't care about what you like and what you dislike. They just like you. I mean, can you attest to that, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That gets a
That is the solid
with
truth.
an exclamation point.
Oh, I heard it. I heard the exclamation point.
Mm-hmm.
It was loud and clear. That
Yep.
one didn't have one.
It's an upside down lowercase I.
Yeah, it was an upside down. Yeah, exactly. I heard the upside down lowercase I on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it again. You be happy with yourself. People will stop caring what you like, and they'll just start caring about liking you, because you're gonna be enjoyable to be around, regardless of whatever kinds of things you're into. Now,
Mm-hmm.
are there gonna people who? Mm-hmm. Are there gonna be people who don't like you? Yeah, I'm sure there are people who don't like me. I think, but like, I hope so. And then, but it's, if you like who you are and you like the things that you do, like and do those things. People who are going to be worth hanging out with are gonna be right in your light, are gonna be in your spotlight. You know, they're going to be the people hanging out with you. They're going to be the people enjoying whatever you're into with you, even if they're not really into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what a good friend does.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got friends that you think they won't be your friend anymore, if you don't like a certain thing, I'm sorry, but that's not a good friend. I'm sorry, but that's just like what we were talking about in the last topic. That's holding on to something that you think is good and allowing yourself to be brainwashed and toxified because you think that good is worth it, but it's not. It's slavery. It's slavery is what that is. Because it's not like slavery like full on slavery. They don't own you, but you're kind of allowing them to own you because you're allowing them to decide your happiness. You're allowing them to decide what kind of things you're allowed to be into and not allowed to be into just because you want to be their friend. Well, a friendship like that's not worth it. A good friendship, I'm going to tell you this, the best, this applies to anything. I heard this from a fantastic Australian man named Matthew Kelly. And he's got a lot of books. He's really smart. But anyways, he said, the best teachers in life are those that help you become the best version of yourself. The best parents in the world are those that help their children become the best versions of themselves. The best friends in life are those that help you become the best version of yourself, right? And so it's far more important to get friends who help you become better people than cling on to friendships that aren't good and don't even make you who you want to be just because you want a friendship. You'll find friends along the way no matter what path you pick, as long as you're meeting people, as long as you're talking to people, right? And those friends will find their way into your life and you'll be close and it'll be awesome. But I'll tell you what, when you go out on a limb, like when you put yourself outside your comfort zone, when you put yourself in new scenarios, what you're often going to find there is friends that you've never met before. And some of them you'll spend the rest of your life getting to know.
Mm-hmm.
Joe and I, even Princess, and many other people in my life have all been just going out on a limb. You know, trying something new, you meet new people, and you click. And sometimes you don't. But like, yeah, I never would have guessed I would have gotten a friend from any of those things. Right? I mean, man, I've known Joe for how many years now? Like 20? Okay.
Not
Not that
quite.
many. Not quite. But still.
Not quite. At least
Not
probably
quite.
like 15.
15. Yeah. 15 years. And basically, I didn't know him, but I thought he was cool. I was like, man, this guy, he's great. I don't know him though. I'd like to get to know him. But he didn't I wasn't even on his radar. Yeah, I probably not for a friend.
Yeah, you were.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. But he just showed up in my house because he was working a business. He was doing an MLM, if you don't know, multi-level marketing. It's what a lot of people call a pyramid scheme. But that doesn't mean it's always a pyramid scheme. It's not always bad. It's not always a scheme. But anyhow, you know, he was working one of those, showed up in my house for my brother. This is crazy actually, because he talked to my music teacher at my high school.
Oh my
He
gosh.
somehow got my teacher into this business. All right. And so my teacher had to make a calling list. And basically a calling list so he could call people and say, hey, you know, I'm getting into this new business. I wanted to show it to you and see if you're interested, you know, kind of thing. And Joe said to my teacher, all right, it's going to be really nerve-wracking to basically, you know, it's always nerve-wracking to make these calls. So what I want you to do is just call the person that you know is going to say no. They're going to, you know, absolutely 100%, they are going to say no to this offer. And so my teacher said, okay, all right. Because if you get the no out of the way, the rest gets easier. You already know, you don't have that like, oh no, what if they say no? You know what happens if they say no. You hang up the phone and you call the next one. It's not a big deal. So let's just get the no out of the way, right? Let's do it. So he's like, I know the person. I'm going to call Kyle, my brother. He calls him up. And I'm actually at the house hearing this phone call. My brother is in college, but he's home for the summer. And so he's like calling him up. I'm hearing this phone call from the other side, and I'm like, he gets done with the phone call, and I was like, what was that? That was weird. And he's like, that was Matt Bishop, our band director. And I was like, oh, what did he want? And he said he wants to show me some kind of business. And he's like, oh, okay. What'd you say? He said, sure, why not? Come over. So the person he knew was gonna say no said yes, happened to be my brother. And so then, basically what happens is then Joe comes over to our house. He shows the plan. He shows the marketing plan, and he's like showing it all out. My brother is interested enough. After a little while, he joins. And I'm like the little sibling. I'm kind of tagged along, thrown in there. I'm just kind of following along. Anyways, years. We do this for years. We just kind of run this business for many years. And this is also the business we get to sell an album through, and all this other great stuff. So anyhow, through a business plan of Joe trying to reach out and build a business, and then us trying to do it along with him, right? We end up becoming lifelong friends. We aren't in that business. We haven't been in that business for years. But we're in our own business now together, right? And never in my wildest dreams could I have ever thought things like this, right? So my point is, right along with Joe, if you got something you want to pursue it. You'll find the people willing to run that race with you along the way. If you have that passion, you have that drive, people will see that and they'll cling to you, because people cling to people who have drive, because that's what they want to. And it is contagious. It can be very contagious. And I think that's awesome. And I am someone who's driven by that contagion. I don't have a whole lot of drive myself, but when other people have drive, that really, really gets me moving. I recently reconnected with a really good friend, and she's got a lot of drive, and it's given me more drive, and I think it's so awesome. And that was a wild scenario too. I would love to talk about that, but I've run my course of time, really. So I will refrain from that. We'll share stories another time. But anyhow, yeah, life is an amazing thing, and some friends will come and go, and some friends will stick. Just know that you have to be you, regardless. Because if you're someone fake, the friends you have are going to be kind of fake. The only way to test those waters is to be yourself. And you have to allow for that to happen. You have to be willing to make those sacrifices of like, yeah, I had an okay friend, to make the really good friends. You have to be willing to make those sacrifices of living a lie to becoming who you are and pursuing the things that you want to pursue, so that you can be happy. And so that, you can live your life and feel like you're living it for a good reason, rather than just living it daily, each day, trying to fit in some mold just so you can have friends. And there's a lot of people who live that sad life. And it is a sad life. And I'm not trying to say like, shame on them. The truth is they don't know better. But I want you to know better, Anonymous. I want everybody to know better. Because it is unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate and bad place to be. I've been there. Been there, totally. So, yeah. Anyhow, that's what I got. Joe, anything you want to add?
Man, you took me down memory lane, dude.
I know, there's so much there. There's so
gosh.
much more to that story.
Well,
But
I
it
mean,
is what it
just
is.
it's so crazy because I look at where we were at that time and where we are now, and all the things that have happened between then and now, and it's just ridiculous. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, Anonymous, I have to tell you that I am so glad that you found a path to run on. And I also want to encourage you to not lose heart when the path changes, if the path changes.
Correct.
It's
Yes.
okay. And you know what? It's interesting because you find out who your real friends are when everything falls apart. Because there have been a handful of moments in this journey since I've met Ryan 15 years ago where it's like everything kind of fell apart. Is sometimes more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Ryan and I are still solid friends. Kyle and I still solid friends. Steve, solid friend. Jeff, all the people at Black Static and Swerve, right? All of us. Solid friends. And we've been through a lot of things falling apart. And so it's okay. Because it's interesting. We go through seasons. You felt lost for a while. Now you feel like you've found yourself. You found something about yourself. You found something to pursue. You've lined things up in your head, and it's awesome, right? And go in that season as long as you can. But understand also, there will likely come a time again when you feel lost. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to sound doom and gloomy or anything like that, but I do want to be real with you. Because life has ups and downs. Life is a roller coaster ride. We have peaks and valleys. And there's a great book called Peaks and Valleys. I forget the author, but I do know the book's called Peaks and Valleys. And we just go through these things, and it's got some great insights on how to deal with those peaks and those valleys, right? Both, because they're an essential part. We wouldn't ever really understand the value of the peak unless we had the valley before, right? And like now, you're experiencing this peak moment of, I've figured it out. I've figured some stuff out. This is great. I've lined it up. If you always lived in that state, you wouldn't understand how valuable that is. But because you spent a time in the valley of feeling lost, now that you feel like you've found yourself, you see the value in it. It's much more valuable. And they talk about, in this book, Peaks and Valleys, they talk about people who go to the plateau and they stay there, kind of like part way up. They just kind of hang out on the plateau, and it doesn't hurt too bad, and it doesn't ever get too great, and just is kind of bland, whatever. You haven't been doing that. And so I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for going through the valley and climbing to this peak. I'm proud of you for that. But also, it's good to remember the valley. It's good to remember those times when it didn't feel right, when it hurt. And remember that. So then when you hit the next one, you're understanding, okay, this is just another part of the process. There's another peak coming after this, right? And it can be really hard to remind ourselves of that when we're there. I promise.
Promise that.
But yes, enjoy this time. Run. Use the energy that you have to pursue what it is you want to pursue. And just go. And you know what's going to happen? Exactly what Ryan was talking about. You're going to find friends along the way that just lock arms with you, and they are going to end up being lifelong friends. They're going to be relationships that you would not trade anything for, because they're so valuable to you. And you're going to cherish them so much, and they're going to be with you when you go through the valleys and the peaks. And you're going to be with them while they go through theirs. And it's going to be so awesome. But, you know, I don't know. I just encourage you to run with it. Wherever you're at, run with it. And now that you're on this peak, run with it. Go for it. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, I don't know. That's all. That's pretty much all I had. So
Awesome.
back to you, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. That was really great, and it's so true. Yeah. I don't really have anything else I can add. So, Anonymous, thank you so much for this topic. We really appreciate it, and thank you for allowing us and the honor to, you know, experience this moment with you and talk about it and help maybe lead you on your way and encourage you on your way, because this is exciting to hear. It's exciting times for you, even if it's a little scary. It is exciting. So yeah, just like Joe said, run with it. We hope the very best for you, and yeah, thank you so much. Cool. On, Ash, you had asked this. I know it's a sidebar, but you said, Ryan, do you ever forget any of the lyrics to your songs? Do I? I can't tell you the lyrics to any of my songs.
That's why
I
they're
don't
written
have-
down, right?
Yeah, that's why they're written down. And actually, while I sing them, I don't even remember the lyrics to them. I actually have to read it on the sheet most of the time. My brain actually has a really weird thing where I can't remember lyrics and I can't remember movies. I can remember things. My brain isn't completely broken. I can remember things that a lot of people might not be able to, like certain personal relationships or events that happened, not the time or date, but just certain things other people wouldn't remember. But yeah, my memory isn't so great, and I don't remember any of my lyrics. Like, I'll try to sing my own song. I'll get like 1/32 of the way through and be like, and that's as far as I can get. You know, I just don't remember the rest. So thanks for asking. Also, do I ever merge songs together? Sometimes, just like when I'm humming to myself. Yeah, that happens a lot, actually. Anyways, there you go. There's your answers, guys. And Moonlit as well for you asking that one. Sidebar, concluded.
You should give yourself a little credit. There are times where you remember your own lyrics.
Not like for the whole song, though.
Yes, but you might remember the whole chorus, and that's
Yeah, sometimes I'll remember the whole chorus. That's pretty good for me. I don't always remember the whole chorus.
But I'm just saying
It's-
you have on occasion. So
I have on occasion. Yep.
I remember single words.
There you go. You remember Joe, you're actually good at that kind of stuff.
What?
You might not be the best at lyrics, but you will like watch a movie and like
and have
it'll
it
be
memorized.
like 2 weeks. Yeah. It'll be like
remember
3
that
weeks
part of that
later, and
movie,
you'll
that
pull out,
obscure
like,
part in the middle of that, and bloom.
Yeah. You just pull out like 14 different quotes from it. Like it just happened. Like you just watched it. I can just watch it and not remember any of the quotes. It's insane.
I could be in the middle of watching it, hear a quote, be, oh, that's cool, and then can't remember.
And not be able to. Yeah, that's me. I can't even repeat what I heard. Sometimes I can. Most of the time I can't. Yeah. So, anyways, different brains are good at different things. I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Also, Saule, thank you for the lyrics. Hey, no, hey, oh, no. Oh my god.
I remember one
that,
lyric.
That's right. That one is inspired by someone that's in this chat.
Oh, nice.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a story. That's a fun one.
Yes.
Yeah, the breath of life might take us.
Mhm.
Yeah, that comes from Nyan. I don't know if she's going by in the chat. But Nyan something at this moment. Nyan Sai, Nyan AFK. She used to do that when she got excited, and I had to write a song that included it.
That's great, man.
So that's where that came from. I just had to. I was like, who does that? She does that. I love it. So there you go. There she is. Hi. So Cool. We've got time for definitely another one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do it. Meow.
Do it.
Meow, are you in the chat?
Meow was in the chat very recently.
Meow, are you still in the chat?
Yeah,
Hey,
it's right
yes,
there.
perfect. Meow, say hello to your topic. This is titled Information and Thought Processes. Great start to even just the title. Joe's gonna be great at this.
Um, wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I haven't even heard the topic yet.
me neither, but I just know it. I just know it because information and thought processes. That sounds like something, someone of your melancholic nature would be at least well attuned with. Anyways, I'm excited to hear what this is all about. So I'm not going to talk any further. Go ahead, Princess, whenever you're ready.
Thinking. In order to answer life's many questions and to better understand the world and ourselves, we must think. In order to create Don't Worry Wednesday topics, I must think, contemplating, searching my mind. This can be a struggle sometimes, and sometimes I can't find what I'm looking for. Everyone has a sort of thinking process that they do when they contemplate things. And I'm assuming y'all have thinking processes that you use for the kinds of things that we discuss on Don't Worry Wednesday. Y'all are so wise and stuff. So I was wondering, what sorts of thinking processes do y'all have slash use? What tips do y'all have for thinking processes and stuff like that? I feel like having a good thinking process allows people to better solve problems and work through things. I hope this makes sense. Ideas are appreciated. Thanks, meow.
Awesome. Thank you, Meow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely am looking forward to see what Joe has to say about this.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to
Thinking.
hearing what Ryan has to say. So back to you.
Awesome. Back to me. Well, I didn't even give it over to you, Joe, yet. So, put your get off my. I'm the host. Stop it.
And I'll go first this time.
You want to go first?
Princess.
Princess.
Princess. I'm totally joking, but do you want to go?
If you want time to think, I can do it.
Yeah,
Whatever.
go for it. If you want, go for it. Enjoy.
It'll be exactly what we do here on Don't Worry Wednesday. The thinking process. You just think with your mind, and something comes out of your mouth.
Yeah,
Usually
hey.
with the inspirations of the Holy Spirit, but
Mm-hmm.
thinking processes in general, I think that really depends on your brain and the way it works. Because every brain's going to be a little different, you know. Every person has different perspective, views, things that they think of, and things that they don't, you know. Like I'm really good at song lyrics, you know. So I have a thinking process on that of like, okay, I start with I'm trying to think of a song. Okay. So like idle bombing. Okay. So idle bombing's the name of it. What are my feelings attached with it? Ah, yes, I can think of that. Then what does the music come with? And then I can think and hear kind of more of the music part of it. And then I'm like, okay. So then it starts up with get up and run, get up and run, get up and run, get up and run. Backtrack to the past a few months ago, et cetera, et cetera. So then I can think through a few months ago to the beginning of an idol competition. No, we would never
See, I
forget.
don't know the
Like
words.
this show.
That's
Planted backstage was about to explode. Then I think of how I get into it, you know, and thinking about what it's about, and then, you know, you get in the whole thing, and then by the end of it, you're having a whole fun karaoke session with yourself before you realize that you're kind of sitting in public. Or not.
Fun.
But there's many different ways of having thinking processes as well. For me, like when I'm trying to remember something I've just forgotten, it's like, okay, for me, I need to think about, okay, rewind in time, back up. What were we talking about? You know, where do we start from? You know, it's like, okay, well, we were talking about video games. Okay. What was the topic before that? We were talking about trains. That's how we got to video games. We were talking about video game trains. Okay. What was the thing before that? We were talking about pizza, train food, train ga right, and so then it's like, okay, so now that I've retraced my steps a little bit, I can go forward with the path that I was looking for, being like, okay, so we were talking about video game train food and how it'd be really cool if we had a simulator that actually had people cooking train food and then serving it on trains and having to go between all the different train carts.
mm.
It's an example, I just made that up because I can,
That's pretty
but
good.
that's
Pretty
not an
good.
actual
Yeah.
conversation I've had, but
Sounds like one.
it's what I coulda had.
Yeah.
You know, because that's how my brain thinks of things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I know about myself is that both am I skilled, and I think it's also partly possibly genetic, is that I have really good information processing skills.
Mm.
When there is stimuli or information that comes into my environment, my brain is very fast at processing things and will process a lot of information very quickly, but to the point where it can be overwhelming how much information I'm actually getting. For instance, being in a large gymnasium where there's 14 to 16 kids all playing with 14 or 16 different basketballs, all going their own ways and they're all shooting these balls. Well, my brain and has a hard time because of paired with anxiety is that my brain is like, okay, I can grab information from each and every one of those 14 to 16 balls that every kid is bouncing and shooting. And I can give you information on where all of them are at the same time because I
Mm.
can gather that information. But it doesn't mean just because I can process it doesn't mean that I can physically, with my consciousness, actually handle what my brain is feeding me information wise.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an information overload. Yes, I could focus on one particular ball and know its exact motions, or I can have a more generic, I know where about everything's going, But at the same time, my brain has the ability to process these things. But it doesn't mean that my conscious mind is able to actually filter and pick and choose and understand like all of them all at once. Because it's a matter of, the information that you're receiving and then your brain processing it and then you processing it. Or at least that's my experience in life. Because again, everything that you get information wise kind of goes through really a subconscious process before it ends up in your conscious process,
Mm.
you know? And
Mm-hmm.
often the unconscious process has a bunch of filters of your experiences. Like, oh, that food was really bad once upon a time because I got sick from it. Or, oh, I really liked that food because it was really cool and I got treats from it. Or, you know, oh, I remember gym class being really boring, or, oh, and then because it's gone through all of that, once you get to it in your conscious mind, then you have to think about, okay, I've gotten this information and I know that it's biased. And how do I want to process it from here further to being what I do from thoughts to actions?
Mm.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the tip for that, if there could be such a thing, is, you know, being good at trying to set up filters. If you're someone like me who has the issue of you can have too much information coming to you at once, overwhelming stimuli or are sensitive in that sort of environment, figuring out what ways you can either set up a filter in your subconscious or even just as your first conscious step, filtering out what's too much to just handle what you can handle at the moment and take it in bite-sized chunks. Um, or if you're struggling with that, trying to focus and being like, okay, the information is probably there. My brain has probably picked it up and I need it. Okay. Well, focusing specifically, okay, I need to focus on, the balls in the court from the left side of the room because that's where I'm at right now. And those are the people I want to kind of join or see who has an open game. And so then being like, okay, brain, what kind of information do I have about them? And what can I do with that information? Now I feel like I'm just talking out of thin air. So I might bounce it to one of you two if you guys are good now and come back to me later if I have anything more. But
All
that's what
right.
I've got to start at the very least.
Oh,
Right on.
fantastic. Thanks for starting
Mm-hmm.
us off.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take that ball and pass it right over to Joe and see what he's got to say. Have fun.
It's in your
Perfect.
court now.
All right. Cool. Mia, I want to thank you for the topic, and I want to thank you for making our brains think.
Hmm.
And I will say that, of the three of us, there's a reason Princess organizes the things on this show. Because her brain is tremendous. She has a very beautiful mind. Seriously, it's incredible. The way, she talked about how she processes things, and it's incredible to see. I'm just like, how do you do all that stuff? And she throws it back at us, and she's like, I don't know how you guys do what you do. And I'm like, I don't know, just hang out and talk and stuff, and like, but there This is a really good question to get us to think about how we think. And you use the word y'all a lot. Makes me wonder if you're Southerner. Maybe you are. I don't know. And that's okay. Um, but I do appreciate, you did say y'all are so wise and stuff. And so I was wondering what sorts of thinking processes do y'all use or have? And it's interesting that you asked it that way, because wisdom and thought processes aren't necessarily, they don't always go hand in hand. Yes, you have to have a good thought process. And now here's the other thing. By saying this, I'm not in any way saying that Princess is not wise by saying these two don't go hand in hand, because she also is very wise beyond her years. That also is incredible. But I don't know. I guess I don't think about my thought processes all that much. When I'm on Don't Worry Wednesday here, Princess mentioned it, like, I'll just be straight up with you. We pray before every time we do one of these shows that, and we just kind of submit ourselves and let the Holy Spirit work through us as best we can. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody. If it does, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of times when I get a topic on here, I will kind of go back in my Rolodex of experiences and the different things that have happened in my life and different types of things. And a lot of times if I can relate it to a story, I will, because I find that teaching, and talking through stories are usually a little bit more fun to listen to than just, principle after principle after principle, right? When you're telling it through a story, it's more engaging, and it's also, it can personalize things a little bit more, right? But wisdom comes from experience. Wisdom comes from, in my opinion, God, and the way that we travel through our life experiences. And sometimes we can have a lot of life experiences in a very short period of time. And we can grow very wise through a very short experience. And sometimes people, they don't have lots of rich experiences, and so it might take a while for them to develop wisdom. But here's the thing: wisdom is something that we are all constantly developing and growing in. There are things that I do to kind of protect my thought processes. One of those is reading. I read every morning. And it's basically a reading plan to take me through the Bible and the Catechism every year. So it's generally about 20 to 30 minutes of reading every day. And just reading something that can help you grow, it doesn't have to be religious. It can be something that teaches a principle. It can be something that teaches you how to be better at, courage. It can be something that teaches you how to be better at thinking. It can be something that teaches you how to activate your subconscious mind, like Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It can be something that teaches you people skills, like how to win friends and influence people, or how to have confidence and power in dealing with people, different things like that. Like, I mean, there are lots of different books out there that can teach you a lot of different things. And, I think I just try and learn. When I see somebody, I try and learn them. I got to spend the last 2 days with my two sons, and I spent time with them trying to learn them, trying to learn about them, trying to, we didn't necessarily talk all the time. We played some games, we talked, we ate, we, did some other stuff and had some fun. We went to the store, different stuff. We hung out, but most of that was me trying my best to pay attention to them so I can learn them. So I can learn about them. I can learn how they think. I can learn, what they're being guided towards in different areas by teachers, by their mom, by everybody, right? Like, I'm just trying to learn how to engage with them. And I think that's probably one of the things that I do. Probably one of the things I do more than other things in my life is learn. In fact, that's one of the things in my therapy sessions. My therapist has said, you need to come up with stuff you're good at, and always like at the top of the list of that is I learn fast. I learn things fast. I pick up things fast. I tend to learn and get it to the point of application fast. Get it to the point where I can apply the knowledge fast. That's one of the things that I think I'm pretty good at. And the interesting thing is I make a lot of mistakes along the way too, but whatever. Hey, everybody does that. And so I think just paying attention. Pay attention to the world around you. And be open to learn. Be open to engage with the world. Be open to, try and take it in and see how things work and try and understand, like, how did I feel during that point in time? What was going on? And as far as thought processes go, that's about the best thing I can come up with in my thought process is I just try and engage with what's happening. I try and engage with who I'm with. I try and engage and be present. And it's a challenge sometimes, especially when there's a lot of things to think about. But Meow, I appreciate this because you've given me something to think about and something to stretch upon and something to ponder, and this is really, really cool. So now that I've talked for a while, Ryan, you knew this was happening. It's coming back to you, and so now you're gonna have to talk about it. What's that?
Fantastic.
Fantastics.
Yeah. Fantastics. Yeah. Thank you for that. I really, really love that. When you engage with people or engage with the things that you're trying to learn, I mean, it obviously opens up your mind. And if you have an attitude of engagement, an attitude of trying to learn, of wanting to learn, and experience, that gives you a lot better of a thinking process or ability to learn and grasp hold of your process of thinking. I think that personally, here's what I can tell you, Meow, from my own experiences. You said, what sorts of thinking processes do you all have, and what tips do you all have for thinking process and stuff like that? Fantastic tips. This is a great thing. Here's the thing. I think it's important to be perspective fluid, if you will. Have fluidity in your perspectives. I've found that helps me a great deal. When I can attack a subject, when I'm like debating myself, like when I'm having a hard, real think session with myself, I like to try to come at it from many different angles, because the more angles I can come at it from, the more I'm allowed to experience and understand and learn the thing I'm trying to figure out or try to solve. Especially having an open mind means that sometimes you got to go down trails that you might have an issue going down with, right? Maybe you're not good at that kind of process, but you're going to try anyways. Maybe you find that process distasteful or pathetic or whatever, but you choose to do it anyways. You try to go down that road. I like to play devil's advocate with myself, and that sort of thing. But here's something that I can definitely say has been the biggest help in all of this, because your thinking process is really important, right? Here's what has always been my biggest help. It stems from one time. I remember I was in church and I was about 10 years old. Yeah, 10, about 10 years old. Somewhere between 8 and 12 at least. Gosh, it's hard to remember. Um, I'm not very good with remembering distances of time. But anyhow,
Hmm.
not one of my specialties. But I was young regardless. I remember being in church and there was a reading. Um, and the reading was about uh, the most wise person that ever lived. Um, who is wow.
King
Wow,
Solomon.
why can't I Solomon, thank you. I was like, my brain lost the name. Okay, there it is, Solomon. Thanks. King Solomon. Um, it was it was the reading of basically he was he had he had been asked by God, essentially like, if you can have anything, what would you have? And his response was wisdom. And God responded to that with basically like, wow, that's awesome. Because he wanted wisdom to be able to rule his kingdom well. He wanted wisdom to be able to provide for his kingdom, right? Not for himself, maybe a little bit for himself, but his intentions were good. And he didn't ask for wealth or fame or anything like that. He just asked for wisdom. And to me, that was powerful. And then the response that God gives is, sure. Like, basically, like, yeah, that's his response is like, the very fact that you asked for that is amazing. And therefore I shall grant it. And it's not often that God is ever a genie. This is probably one of the only cases. That you can see him in
Right.
such a light. Um, but he grants the prayer basically. And I remember that standing out to me as a kid and being like, wisdom. Yeah, I really want that too. Um, and it became a passion of mine, right? To have a passion for wisdom is ultimately probably the greatest gift I've ever had from God when it comes to thinking, when it comes to living out my life, when it comes to so much. Because my passion for wisdom means that I pick it up. I notice when I see it. If I have a passion for wisdom, when I go through anything in life, my brain is always on wisdom. What wisdom can I gather from this? It always keeps my mind in a positive frame. Because no matter what I'm going through in life, my brain is always set on finding the good, finding the wisdom. What can I take away? And that really helps me problem solve almost anything. When I'm going through good times, even, my mind can still remain on wisdom, passionately engaged with that topic, um, constantly, ad nauseum. And it allows for me to pick up things that if you didn't have a passion for that, you never would find. And so I can tell you that the best tip I can ever give from my own experience about thinking, about problem solving, about the process of which to do so is just having that passion for wisdom. Um, I owe so much to that alone. And so another thing beyond that, I think what Easy was talking about is perspective. Um, he grew up in a family that was very militially involved, and it really painted the picture for him in his life and the way he saw things. I remember growing up in school, um, Easy. What he doesn't remember this, but I remember very clearly. He would almost never address me by my first name. He would always call me Mr. Seawald. All throughout school, middle school and high school, he was always calling me Mr. Seawald, and that was because of his background. And I knew it was. Um, I I didn't even have to get really into his life to kind of understand what kind of person he was and what kind of upbringing he had, just because of the way that he spoke. Just because of the way that he spoke. And that was really cool. When you grow up in life, you get your parents' perspectives on a lot of things. So my initial response was be perspective fluid. And what I mean is sometimes you have to dismiss your own perspective because you have to realize that your perspective is a result of your environment. It's not something you've gained from thinking. It's something you've gained from as a gift. But that gift isn't always perfect. And sometimes you have to look elsewhere. So be willing, like Joe was saying, to get into other people's lives and see things from their perspective. What it'll do is it'll enhance your thinking process. My brother is incredibly logical based, but he had to learn how to take in emotional information and how to settle things with people on an emotional basis and how to really do any of that kind of stuff. I think that he has a really great problem solving mind, but his mind only allows him in nature, how he was originally made without actually having to, you know, learn new talents of personality and things like that, right? Originally, my brother, fantastic problem solver, fantastic problem finder, but it would oftentimes solve problems without actually realizing what problems it's causing. Because you can solve a problem, but step on everyone doing so. You can solve a problem and cause a lot of social problems. You can solve one social problems and create 15 more, you know? And it's an important thing you have to learn. And you only learn that through experience. But I know personally, I have thoughts that come into my brain of how to solve problems that I know they just come from my experiences with my brother. Like I'll think a thought and I'll be like, my brother would have thought that thought and he would have said it out loud. Like, that's a Kyle thought. That's a Kyle thought coming out from within me. Like, that's wild. But so basically what I'm saying is, yeah, be perspective fluid. Learn other people's perspectives because that will help you and enhance you in your own processes. To actually go into the process of like calculating this step, then this next step, then this next, to actually put it on a process, right? I think is good, but don't enslave yourself to it. You want to be able to be fluid, but you also want to have plans of attack. So for me, my plan of attack is usually, all right, I need time to think. I'm stepping away from the computer, stepping away from everything. I'm going to go into kind of a dark area and pace. And it really gets my mind moving. Whatever that is for you. It's not the same for everybody. Some people, they go for walks. Some people, they pace. Some people, they lay down and think. Some people, I don't know, they listen to music. They put on some minor sensory stuff, and just let their brain go at it, right? So find out what that is for you, that works best for you. Dig into that. Next step. When I'm trying to think about something, first thing I do is lay out all of the issues and try to get to the root of the problem. If it's a problem I'm trying to solve, right? Ask why, and ask why to that, and ask why to that, until I get to the root of the problem where I go, ooh, that's it right there. You feel it when you get to the root. You're like, oh, yeah, I see. It's usually one of those moments. And sometimes it's not always that way. Sometimes like, oh, it's a possibility. But it'll vary, right? From time to time. Sometimes you'll know when it's the root, and sometimes you're like, that could be a root. Once you get to the root of the problem, the real problem, then you can start to ask questions about that. You can attack that, and you can try to solve that. For me, a lot of times what I do is I enter prayer. While I'm pacing, I just talk to God while I'm doing it because that sets my mind towards wisdom. That sets my mind in a forward direction, right? If you don't believe in God, you don't have to do that step. I'm just telling you about my process. From there, I'll talk to God until I'm done and I'm like I can't figure this out. And then sometimes I'll just ask God, God, what do you think? You know? And every once in a while he'll give me an answer. It'll be like boom, I'll have like a series of like 5,000 word topics in my brain that will just be like, "Wow, that was intense. That's a good answer. That makes sense." And most times it's like silence and I don't get any answer and that's fine, right? But these are my personal experiences. What do? I mulled over it for a while. It might take 2 hours of my time. And at the end, I either have an answer or I've learned something important that was maybe not even directly related, but I've still milked the wisdom out of the topic. I've still milked wisdom from the topic, right? And so that is my process. And I don't know if that's going to be good for you. Meanwhile, during that process, I do try as much as I can to look at from every perspective possible. I look at my experiences, I look at other people's experiences that I know from personal relationships, and I just try to throw it all at it, and really dig down. And I give it time. I don't try to rush it. I give it time. I give it usually an hour sometimes. Sometimes it takes two. But until I'm either satisfied with the wisdom I've gained from it, or I recognize that I'm at a point where I can go no further and I'll have to learn something else before I can continue. If that's the case, then I'll be like, okay, then I need to learn. That's all I need to know. All right, I can move on now. I need to learn more. And so then maybe I'll go look it up, or maybe I'll just kind of dismiss it for a week and come back to it later. But anyhow, that's what I got. I hope that's somehow helpful. Uh, but yeah, as for the show, it's just as Joe said. We take from our experiences and we allow the Holy Spirit to work through us. We pray before everything, but if you're not religious, it's totally fine. The Holy Spirit will work through you anyways. No.
If you're not
Anyways,
religious, it's totally fine. And it's totally fine to explore it.
yeah, absolutely. You should explore. I mean, as Catholics, we're actually asked um, and we're told to, hey, question your faith,
Mm-hmm.
question it. Don't just believe just because you heard it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find those answers, and you got to understand them, because
Right.
otherwise, it's blind.
And then also sometimes question your source,
And question your source. Yeah, for
because
sure.
things can be misrepresented by people from time to time. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to dig into what is actually the teaching, which
Sure.
might take a little bit more digging, right? Rather than just
Mm-hmm.
asking some random Catholic about something, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
because
So.
some know better than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true.
Hmm.
And you have to admit that you don't know. I think that's an important thing too, right? You have to admit that you don't know the answers to everything before you can start getting the answers to everything. But anyways, there you go. Um, that's what I got. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. Joe, did you have anything you want to add, or Princess?
I think Princess
Okay,
does. She's got that look on her
blind.
face.
Well, there were some great things from the chat.
Oh yeah.
One was from Saule: observe, orient, decide, act, repeat. That I think is a pretty good summary of some of the thinking processes we all have. We observe, we
Hmm.
orient ourselves to understanding it, then we decide what we want to do, and then take an action or lack of action, which is also a choice of an action uh, to things. And then Anna Elf had said, I believe my answer to this question is analyzing possibilities, as if watching a series of alternate universes. What happens if X? How would that affect Y? As well as
Mm,
trying to read the why of both actions of people and of all things in general. Once you know why, you also have an idea of how. And then you can imagine the what that comes after,
very
which I
nice.
thought
Yeah.
was a very wonderful way of saying it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Which kind of led me into thinking and understanding the thinking of others. That is really what's core of our society and how we interact with one another. Is our thinking and the thinking that other people do. And so it's really important to understand how we think, and almost even more importantly, how other people think, so that we can understand one another. When you think similarly to another person, like when people are like, "You know what sounds great right now?" And you both say in unison, "Pizza," because great minds can think alike.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And bigger things than that, but it's just an example of you might have the same thought process when you hear certain
Hmm.
things are that way, and in that you can relate to one another, you know? And then there are times where it's like, you think very differently from one another. Like, one of you is like, "Oh man, lyrics are the best part of a song." The other person's like, "Nah, nah, nah, nah. It's obviously the beats. The bass in particular. Gotta crank that up to 12,000%."
The beats, the bass, the bronze.
You
Sorry,
know?
there's an old song.
But then it's kind of thinking like, you know, thinking about those differences. Okay, what is the value behind it? What are people thinking? How do they say things? Why do they say things? What things are said and what things are not being said? And you don't want to get trapped too far in a loop of overthinking, which is all too easy and a topic I'm sure we've covered at least twice in our whole Don't Worry Wednesday careers. But, there is a lot that we can learn from how people interact with one another or how they interact with other things, especially things that they're passionate about. Uh, I also thought about for me, I'm not someone who really thinks on my oh, I mean, I do, but it's more like for me, I generally need a verbal component of things. Like there are things that I can think of in my head. And especially if I'm in a place where it's not like available for me to have space to, get things out in a verbal sense, I can do the thinking in my head. But the thing is that I can very easily get trapped into loops in my own head. And so I
Hmm.
need to get it out.
Hmm.
Sometimes I need to get it out to the point where it's actually heard by somebody, and sometimes I just need to, like, talk it out, or sometimes I need to, like, pick a song that has no words to it, some instrumental of something, whether it's a piece that's on karaoke or it's, literally just an instrumental, and then sing to it to sing out whatever's on my mind, whatever's going on, to get that out. And other times, what it takes is seeking places of wisdom, seeking others who are really wise and, letting it out and hearing their perspectives, hearing
Hmm.
how they think about these things. If they were in a similar scenario, or just what their thoughts are about my reactions to things to understand better. And then, of course, bringing things to prayer. There are times where you get answers, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I bring things and I ask a question, and then I usually ask, is it this way of thinking or that way of thinking? And seeing what I'm more drawn towards. And sometimes it's a matter of I'm not drawn to either, which means I'm on the wrong track. Or sometimes I'm drawn to one more than the other. And sometimes it's like it doesn't really matter. And sometimes it's like, yeah, no, that other way you're thinking, it's not really all that grand. Go over this way. And it's like, okay. So I do that. And then I also think later, what is the deal with the other one? Not that it has to be necessarily bad, but in my thinking, what part of it would be the lesser decision to have made? And usually I can find something. Oh, I was just thinking about me, or oh, I wasn't thinking about that other people might have plans, or I wasn't thinking about that we wouldn't have the right supplies or other things like that, where there's just small things that I just don't naturally think of that can come out of that sort of thing. Which is interesting because to me, part of what I just got inspired by hearing Ryan talk all about his wisdom, you know, is that even since I was a little kid, a lot of what mine thought has always been is generally service, you know,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about like, oh, you know, I remember a quote from my mom who was like, one of the things she was like is like when I did something I was being, I was like, "Do you want to hurt mama's feelings?" And I'd be like, "No," and I like be crying because I thought I hurt mama's feelings because that's so me.
Yep.
But
Yep.
there's a lot of things that I think of things from the path of like, oh, what service can I do? Like what is the goal of what I'm doing based in a matter of service? Is this a service to myself? Is this a service to others? And if this isn't being a good service that I'm doing, then what the heck am I doing? Or why would I do that if it's not to be in good service? And it's, of course, gotta be in a balance of both respecting myself and others in said service, because it can be very easy to service to somebody else and turn it into slavery, you know, or to get
Mhm.
yourself trapped in that place of, for growing up, part of it was as I was in some ways my sister's keeper in a way that I shouldn't have been. And in many ways, it was like I was in a position where I had to cater to her needs in a way that was kind of like slavery. Not literally, but the point is there is that the way that things were and the way that I was servicing to help her, it was also not good because it wasn't actually being good to me in the service. And it also didn't help her in the very end either, which is something I learned.
Mm.
But I mean, that's what you get when you have a kid trying to parent a kid. It's not
Mm.
something that should be their responsibility. They're just a
Mm.
kid.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But anyways, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Sorry for the long tangent.
Oh, it's all good.
No, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
absolutely. What you focus your mind on is really crucial to your thinking patterns in life. Generally speaking, like I mean, in everything. If you're focused on good things, you're going to see more good things and you're going to feel more good. You're focused on bad things in life, you're going to see a lot more bad and you're going to feel a lot worse. But the same reality is true. There's the equal, like there's this same amount of good and there's the same amount of, not same from each other, but there's a certain amount of good and a certain amount of bad, but you only see what you're able to focus on. So it's good to train your mind to, it's good to spend time thinking about like what's actually healthy for me to spend my time thinking on so that I can see those things in the world better. If you're, they often say like, um, you don't notice how many people own your car until you buy it, right? If you're interested in a specific car, all of a sudden you'll start to notice everyone's driving it.
Mm.
But before
Mhm.
that, you never even noticed that anyone had driven it, right? And that's very true. So what you feed your brain, what you decide, you have to actively decide, what am I going to pursue in life? What am I going to focus my time on? That can absolutely change how you see everything, how your brain works with the information it's given, and what kind of information it takes in the first place, and how you live your life out ultimately. And so, um, if I guess if as a final tip from me, if I were to make any, is spend some time really getting down on that one, because that's pretty important, and it's not something that you're ever going to have anyone teach you. It's not something that they teach as an idea in school, or parents generally don't even talk about something like that. They just live their life and they see what they see. But you actually have the power to decide what you want to see, what you want to focus on. But you need to spend some time figuring out what you want that to be, focusing on that, making it a habit, and that will become your new perspective of the world. Um, and having more perspectives allows you to see more. But uh, that's 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 what I'm going to say as a final statement from me. Joe, did you want to say anything else?
Um, nope.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meow. You're amazing. We appreciate the topic, uh, and we love you. It's great that we got to do Don't Worry Wednesday today. I just love this show, and I love you guys.
Mhm.
Fantastic, uh, just topics and or comments rather from you guys in the chat. Um, yeah, there's a lot to draw on from you guys. As we do this, one thing that you also, one thing that we didn't say is, um, a lot of times when we're talking, we're grabbing things that we can relate to out of the chat, or that things that surprise us, or go, yeah, that's right, I didn't even think about that. And that's coming from you guys.
Mhm.
So thinking patterns, all of that, it's important to be able to listen and hear other people as well, right? And so we're happy to have you guys here to help us think, um, and solve, and or at least attempt to weigh into these topics. Um, so yeah, thank you guys so much for all of your participation and your help over the many years that we've been doing this now. So
Mhm.
but even to the people who are new, we thank you as well. So yeah. Um, but yeah, that concludes our show. Um, don't worry,
Thanks for being
Wednesday.
here.
Thanks for being here. Yeah. We love you guys.
We
And
couldn't have the show without your support.
that's
Mhm.
true. And Princess
Absolutely.
just put it link in the chat. If you have a topic you want us to do next week or anytime in the future, please send us that topic going to don'tworrywednesday.com, and we will be sure to get it down in the queue for you. But yeah, have an awesome life, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
We love you.
Love you guys.
Bye now. Peace.